Back when my brother bought his first, or got his first 3D printer, it was a filament printer, and the stuff he printed with it was nice, but meh. Then he got his resin printer, and he started printing out stuff for me without even knowing if I need it. He just thought it would be nice. One thing was this guy. Obviously, for those who know it, this is an Oni mask, which is a Japanese yokai. Yokais basically are cryptids. I did do some yokai at one point. You can find this video linked somewhere. Anyway, my brother printed me out this mask. I was thinking about using this not even as a base, using this as the face of the doll. But I wanted to have a guy who was quite beefy. So I went onto AliExpress back then, and this is basically in the development for over a year now. And I bought this rather beefy guy. And he looked a little bit smaller now. The head is a bit small for the body, but I think I can get away with it. Unsurprisingly, I bought a second body because at one point I want to turn the spare, into Minotaur. Into a Minotaur, that's it. But for the Minotaur I have to sculpt the head completely myself, and I'm don't think that I'm there yet, that I want to do that. So we start with one body, and that will become the Oni. And I have an idea what I want to do as a costume, but because we don't know how well this will die, I'm not going too far now, because obviously we have to dye him red later, because Onis are mostly depicted as red, blue, or green, I think. And in traditional Japanese art, they most of the time only wear a loincloth out of leopard or tiger. I say, questioning my sources. I should have looked that up before starting the video. Anyway, I think more of giving him some slightly traditional-ish samurai clothing, because I don't think that these joints will die the same way as the legs, because that is a different kind of plastic, and this is a resin. It will die, I know that, but I don't know how. So to maybe hide differences in the dye later, we will have to give him clothing accordingly. I want to first dye him, then repaint him, because that gives us at least a base. So obviously, because this guy came without hands and feet, we need hands and feet. I have these spare ones. I don't know if they will fit onto him. Does look okay. Do I get you off again, or? They are a bit loose, but it should be okay. Then let's put both on there. And yes, you normally should do this with as many of the body parts not on the doll. But because I can't take him apart anymore, why even bother? Oh, come on. Be a nice dude. Then of course, he needs hands. These are the spare ones I have laying around. And I bought a samurai sword for him. It's quite big, but maybe he has to compensate something. Anyway, you are the right hand. I now have to decide: do I want him to be a right-hand person or lefty? I think he will be right-handed. The first thing we want to do is now take epoxy clay and put this on. I still want the head to be movable, so I will cover this up first with a squeaky little boy, with foil, so he can still move afterwards. Then I will build up the head with aluminium foil, sculpt on top of it. I do want to basically first sculpt a kind of throat back here, so we are not going to lose that detail. And so I went on sculpting. Basically I did just what I said. I protected the joint a little bit with foil and then used a little bit of hot glue to put everything in place, and then started sculpting with epoxy clay, which worked quite nicely. I even decided to stuff a bit of the epoxy clay I had mixed into his feet joints, foot joints. You know which area I mean. To have them a little bit more, a bit tighter, so they are not flopping around everywhere. They still do, but they would have done that even worse without it. And because I still had some left, I decided to sculpt the base of his sandals. I wanted to give him Gete or Geta sandals. I'm not sure how to pronounce it right, but those Japanese platform-esque sandals with two platforms underneath the base of the foot. Well, what can I say? Looks like he didn't like to take a bath while I was present, because he turned quite red. Thank you. I'm here all week. My hands turned red as well. He has some weird spots. I think they are where he touched the bottom of the pot. But I think we can deal with that by just painting over it. Mixing a similar color to this should be doable. Maybe even when I use some soft pastels to blush his body, because I guess I have to blush his body, those spots will disappear. One bummer is his horniness did go away a little bit. I will take care of that by maybe even sculpting a little bit new part, so he is a little bit more horny again. But otherwise, I think he turned out quite nice. We have a halfway cohesive color all over. Yes, his face and the resin are a little bit different color-wise, but I can live with that. As soon as we repaint him, I think we are fine. And here I started to paint him with acrylics. I started with white, obviously. Then I mixed a red that was insanely close to the original color, or to the color of the body. And I painted all of it. And yeah, I painted all of it multiple times. I let Roland of that time and not voiceover Roland take over again to explain it to you. Our boy has a little issue. The issue is I have now 3 layers of white, then 2 layers of matte varnish, 2 layers of white, 3 layers of MSC, and 2 layers of PVC glue on his horns, eyes, and teeth. Because each and every time the rat came through again. I will zoom you in a second so you can see that. You see? That's an issue. I hope with the PVC glue on now we will get a white result. Otherwise, I have no idea what to do with him. I already finished his outfit. It isn't weathered or altered yet. Altered? Weathered. Aged. Aged. Yet. Because the idea is basically he found that the pieces of clothing somewhere and just took them and decided to wear them because, don't know, Japan is cold or something in some regions. And so the thing I made is a half a kimono, and I messed up a little bit here, but I will, as I said, age all of that, and a hakama. I don't know if this kimono is more a yukata or whatever. I have no real idea what is right, what is wrong, how to call the things. I just know the sandals I made are Geta sandals, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation if it's totally wrong. The pants I made are Hakama pants, which seem to be the most traditional pants for kimonos. And I made half a kimono, or yukata, or whatever it is. Because I thought, why do a full one when you have a guy with this physique, first of all? Show off a little bit of it. And second, I don't think that an Oni who lives in the wilderness would do too much to maintain nice, crisp clothes. So maybe it tore apart and he still wears it. Same goes for the pants. Normally you might see that they have very clear folds. I'm not going to preserve them after or when I go and weather the pants, because I can't imagine an Oni sitting down to iron his pants. 8 months later. He was sitting on my shelf for 8 months, and I was fed up with him because, yeah, I was so annoyed I wasn't willing to work on him anymore. And when I looked at him, basically last week, I noticed again that he was completely red again. So I removed most of the paint and stuck him in a bucket of water overnight. And yes, the water was quite red afterwards. And he had some discoloration on his upper torso. There were parts that, looked very light now compared to before. But because of the water therapy and everything, I was able to remove more of the layers of acrylic paint and varnish and whatever I stuck on him. His teeth by this point were already sticking together and had nearly no details anymore. Afterwards, they basically were back to normal.
But I was still not very convinced about all of this. And I thought for a moment about it, and I was like, when you dye fabric, you normally put them into something, or a fixative, something that keeps the color in. I now rinsed him overnight, maybe try it with vinegar. So I watered down vinegar, put it in a cup, and put him into this cup. I tried only to submerge his head and none of his body, because I wasn't sure what it will do with him. At this point, I was just trying out things, because I wanted him to work, but I was not sure if he would work. I had a nicely pink cup of vinegar afterwards. And I then tried to peel off a little bit more, then covered one horn with white, because I was not willing to go through all of the details without knowing if it worked. And to my surprise, after 24 hours, we still had a white horn. Or a mostly white horn. There is a little bit of red coming through, but it was... I wasn't really sure if it just was because I just did the thin layer of white, or if it was because the dye still comes through. I painted everything with acrylics. I do think it still shows a little bit, but at that point I was like, okay, just take the MSC, spray him, and start with the soft pastels. And so far, he still isn't all that red. Ask me in 8 months from now, and we will see about that. But yeah, I did all of the shenanigans with the soft pastels, with the watercolor pencils, to give him a halfway decent repaint. And yeah, I didn't bother to again paint his face, even though I still had the acrylic paint I originally mixed, because by now I had bought red soft pastels, and that was more than enough to paint him. Let's talk for a moment about his footwear. Normally, these kind of sandals are worn together with socks. I think they are called tabi socks. And basically all of this goes between the big toe and the other ones. So, like flip-flops. And I could have just cut those apart, but I decided to drill a hole in his foot and then stitch sandals onto my Japanese demon guy. Which is not the strangest sentence I said since I started the doll customization. So, yay! I love my hobby. But it worked quite nicely. It then was finally time to give him hair, and I finally could use the Brazilian wool hair, I think it's called like that, something like that I bought on Temu ages ago. I thought it might be like brushed out acrylic yarn. It is not. It is very firm, very rough. It's not very nice to touch, and I wouldn't use it for a more elegant doll, but for a little demon, I can't say it. For a demon, ogre, whatever he really is, I thought it was okay. Which brings us to a little bit of mythology. Just a little bit. Onis are most of the time compared to orcs, ogres, demons. They are not really any of those because obviously they are from Japanese mythology. And they have yokai. Yokai are a combination of different, or in other cultures you would classify them as different things. You have ghosts in there, you have demons in there, you have kinds like the Oni in there. And Onis are most of the time very bad, very evil creatures. I read it in one thing that they are created basically through people that did bad are punished to become an Oni in the afterlife or after they died. So most of the time Onis are very evil things, creatures, beings. I only saw male Onis so far, I have to admit. But yeah, I think there are interpretations where they are not always bad, but most of the time they are depicted as killing and eating humans. So yay, I have such a charming guy now on my shelf. I imagine him being a very nice one. Because he was a little bit too plain for me, I had to first of all do the binding thing that you sometimes see on kimonos to get the sleeves out of the way, and the saya, which is the sheath of the katana, needed something to so you could bind it on the belt, and I gave him a necklace, and yeah, all of that I did off camera, but with that I thought he looked quite nice. So let's take a look at the final pictures. After all that back and forth with him, I think he turned out quite cool. I hope he will stay that way, but we will see in 8 months. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy this little journey. You apologize, you are accepting my apologies for all the butchering of Japanese language. And we will see us in another video. Until then, bye!